Hi, this is Pat McDonald, your host for Vote for Vermont, where our tagline is listening beyond the sound bites. Today I have two guests, one in studio and one on Zoom. And the topic tonight, again, is wakeboats. And we have covered wakeboats. Maybe I was trying to add out how many videos I've done. This may be my fourth one. And it's still here, still a serious problem. And I will introduce Dave Kelley, who's an attorney, has been very active on this issue. And we will have Mr. Kelley, will be chatting about all the things that, and you know what, David, when we were at the music thing the other night, people were talking about it, and they were talking about safety. And that was a really big issue. And before I get into details, joining us on the Zoom is Ritchie. Oh, Ritchie's last name.
Ritchie Berger.
Ritchie
from
Berger,
the
of
Dinsey
course,
Law Firm.
Dinsey.
One of the most prominent attorneys in the state of Vermont.
Yes, I know that.
You want to be sure he's on your side.
I read all about you. You have an amazing background. Thank you for joining us. And you've been involved with David and others in filing lawsuits against this wakeboats.
No,
not lawsuits, petitions with ANR seeking to have them excluded from a specific body of water, Caspian Lake.
Yeah, actually, there at one point there was a petition put in for 10 of Vermont's lakes to have them not permitted on those lakes. I know I had a show about that, and that was pretty contentious. So let's just get started. David, maybe you or Ritchie can talk about where we are with wakeboats and what they are. They are just huge. And maybe you can talk a little bit about what is a wakeboat.
well, essentially, it's a boat with a huge ballast, and that ballast is used to create high waves so people can surf instead of just water skiing. Literally surf behind the boat. And those waves are big enough to pose problems with respect to safety and erosion and wildlife such as loons. And we're grappling with those problems. That ballast creates safety problems as well as environmental problems. It creates waves big enough to swamp a paddleboard or a kayak. And I think very importantly, we have an invasives problem because it's almost impossible to clean those ballasts. When they travel, those boats travel between lakes. For example, we now have zebra mussels in Lake Memphremagog. If they come to Lake Willoughby or Lake Caspian, there's every likelihood that no matter what they do, they're going to bring those invasives with them.
I think when I first heard about these wakeboats and saw videos of them, that's a stunner. If people go on your website and just look up videos of these things, they really erode the beaches. I don't know how one fishes quietly with one of those things on the lake, but not cleaning the ballast out was the thing that really got me upset. Because when I worked at DMV, we used to talk about zebra mussels, put them on our registrations, on boats and stuff, and I know that's not good, and you can't clean them out successfully. So,
The way they're designed today, do you want to add something about this, Ritchie, about the invasives issue?
Well, yeah, I mean, ANR DEC has recognized in the rule they did pass that it's impossible to fully clean out the ballast on these wakeboats, even if you have decontamination facilities available and the owners and users of those wakeboats employ such a facility. So the fact that ANR recognizes they can't be cleaned out properly goes to why the town of Greensboro in particular has petitioned not only for ANR to ban them, but to have, if ANR is not willing to, which they're not, to give the town of Greensboro authority via ordinance to ban them from the lake, which is in their contiguous boundary. So that petition remains pending.
oh, that's interesting. I hadn't heard that one. That's great. I am surprised at ANR. They've had public hearings, and they're having two public hearings coming up, which just, I read it in the paper in The World the other day, and I will put the dates at the end of this video so you have information about where to go and participate in this discussion. They have certainly been out there and asking people. I'm not sure how much they've been listening.
Well, what's complicated about this is that they adopted a rule, and then they essentially unadopted the rule. So we're in this kind of limbo where they want to revise it. I'm not sure what authority they have to adopt a rule, to go through the rulemaking process, and then unilaterally as an agency unadopt the rule. But what is clear is there was a University of Minnesota study that said one of the most serious and troubling ways of spreading zebra mussels is through wakeboats. And if we can't contaminate them, but we have a rule that effectively lets them travel between lakes,
Right.
we're guaranteed to increase the invasives around Vermont. I brought with me a chart. I don't know if your viewers can see it, but you can see over the last 20 or 30 years what's happened to Vermont lakes. And the increase in milfoil and zebra mussels and other invasives is really shocking. We like to think of ourselves as being environmentally conscientious, but with respect to protecting our lake waters, we haven't been. On the other hand, we have communities, especially up in the Northeast Kingdom, Lake Averill, I think Shadow Lake, Caspian, Willoughby, Seymour, where people are just ferociously dedicated to keeping the waters clean. And that's what we're trying to do. And what the agency has now said is that we understand the design of these lake boats precludes decontaminating them, but nevertheless, we're going to subject them to the same standards as a regular motorboat. And when we do that, we're guaranteeing the spread of invasives. I know, talking to people at Lake Seymour, they tried to do a study of what it would cost if milfoil or zebra mussels come into Lake Seymour, which is a big lake. A lake that size, it would cost about $350,000 to start to clean up the lake.
Right.
So we're talking about economics as well as the environment. The agency has a challenge that's not being met, and it's really dangerous.
Maybe I'd ask Ritchie, if a bill, if I remember correctly, if a bill goes through LCAR and gets approved, that does have the full force and effect of law, of statute, correct? So how can the agency say, oh, just kidding, and not, I don't think they have the authority. I'm not an attorney, but I slept at a Howard Johnson or whatever. They don't have the authority to do that, do they?
I think they have to go through the entire rulemaking process
Exactly.
again. But the rationale from what I've seen from this draft amendments is just weakening an already inadequate regulation
Right.
that they passed. The regulation that they passed allows wake boats in a number of pristine bodies of water, which are adamantly opposed to the use of the wake boats from an aquatic invasive species perspective, an erosion perspective, a wildlife perspective, and most importantly for current purposes is a safety perspective, as David pointed out. You just can't be out there on a paddleboard or a kayak or a canoe and be subjected to the wakes produced by one or more wake boats. And A&R, when they passed the current regulation, acknowledged they did no study of the safety implications of wake boats on Vermont's lakes and ponds. And they've done nothing since. Instead, they're proposing to weaken the home lake rule that they had passed, which would do something to slow down or restrict passage of boats from lake to lake. It wouldn't be perfect, but it was better than nothing. And now they want to apparently revoke that through a new or amended rule. It just, as a lifelong Vermonter, it just doesn't make sense that A&R seems just so reluctant to acknowledge the reality that it states in the rule that these watercrafts on a certain number of Vermont lakes certainly just don't belong. They don't belong from a safety perspective, from a historical use perspective, which is the focus of the water uh, regulations, and from aquatic invasive species and protection of wildlife like loons. So they recognize all that, but they're just going through all these machinations to try to micromanage versus pre- preventing them from certain bodies of water. Certainly, those where the citizens and elected representatives are adamant that these are just improper uses on bodies of water which are critical to the livelihood of these
Right.
towns, such as Greensboro or Averill and what have you.
Yeah.
So it's just inexplicable that A&R it seems to be so hogtied by concerns about the powerboat industry that it's trying to approach the problem in this fashion.
The motorboat industry is pushing this issue? I mean, who's driving um, their insistence on keeping this legal?
That's a good question.
Who's
I
behind
think
it?
I know that the water sports industry has hired a lobbyist, and they're there at the legislature. But to be perfectly honest, I don't understand. This should be a no-brainer.
Right.
And I think people with wake boats, for the most part, want to keep our lakes clean. And I think an open, transparent conversation with those people would probably limit wake boats to Lake Memphremagog and um, Lake Champlain. We do have in the rule, a 500-foot distance, presumably from nesting loons, a 500-foot safety offset distance, a 500-foot distance from shore, a 20-foot depth in water,
20 foot.
supposedly all required for these boats to protect everybody. But stop and imagine, you're going umpteen miles an hour, dragging somebody who's surfing on 5-foot waves behind your boat,
Right.
and you're supposed to be measuring the distance between you and nesting loons.
Right.
I mean,
That's pretty obvious.
you stop and take out a tape measure.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Yes. And they don't see that because you can't enforce it. It's
No.
impossible.
And who is going to enforce it?
Well, I'm assuming it's public safety with their
Well, yeah, you would
aquatic
presume
division,
that,
right?
but I think that the game wardens and I think that the state police, I think they've got other things to be doing
Yeah.
than to be sure these wake boats on Lake Caspian or Lake
Right.
Seymour are staying 500 feet away from the paddle border. And if there's a 6-year-old kid or a 7-year-old kid on a sunfish trying to learn to sail or on a paddleboard, you're looking for a tragedy.
Right.
And so the difficulties that we're introducing are really serious, and they demand a stricter scrutiny than what's happened so far.
There seems to me to be so much interest on the side that says don't, because I know when they had their first Zoom meeting, the place was packed. Wherever they held this meeting was packed, but there were 300.
It was at the Highland Center for the Arts in
Oh, was that where they
Greensboro.
were?
Yeah.
360-something people were on
I was
Zoom.
there.
And so there's a lot of interest in this, and I don't think it's all positive either. Ritchie, you mentioned home rule, and I think that's an important thing to talk about, because you also said they may try to do away with that.
Yeah. As part of trying to thread the needle in the current regulation that was passed a year and a half ago, they provided for a home lake rule, which would say that you can't take a boat from one lake to the next lake unless you've had it certified decontamination. So it was an effort. If your boat was put into a lake that's one of the allowed lakes and stays in that lake, then that's your home lake rule. And they actually had a decal applied to, I guess, the port side of the wake boat to show what its home lake is. And under the proposed changes, and again, they haven't been widely circulated yet or even finalized, it appears they want to do away with the home lake rule, which is a positive aspect of an inadequate rule. It's not a panacea, but it certainly is helpful. And now apparently ANR/DEC wants to do away with the home lake rule, which will just increase the risk to lakes like Caspian and Averill and lakes that are have pristine water quality and are trying to protect it. That in the other factors of wildlife, shoreline protection,
Right.
and aquatic invasive species, all of them will be at increased risk by these proposed amendments. And so, again, a stress, the town of Greensboro had the foresight to say to ANR, we're petitioning, requesting that you ban them from Caspian Lake. But the second petition filed by the town was, if you're not going to do it, then give us the authority under Vermont law to do it, and we'll do it. And that's still pending. Now, do I, that shows just, I think, the commitment of the folks in that area of the state to preserving and protecting its lakes and for present and future generations.
And I think one, maybe the only thing that might be good from this attempt to create some amendments is an acknowledgement that the agency is reconsidering the delegation authority to municipalities. I know in our case, with our petition, that nobody would pay more attention or be more conscientious about protecting the lake than the people of Greensboro. And if we were given, we already have been delegated that authority with respect to shoreline protection. And the agency must know and understand that we've done a more thorough job than the agency could ever do. We have people there that are thinking and working on this all the time. And I think that it would be the height of responsibility to delegate regulatory powers
Right.
over this issue to the municipality. I might point out that one of the other things that they've done here is initially in the rule, they said that there were 30 lakes in Vermont where wake sports could take place. And now they've reconsidered it and they said, well, wait a minute, it looks like maybe we should just limit this to 18. And for those 12 lakes that have now dropped off the list,
Right.
that's great.
Yeah.
But what that does to the 18 is it creates
More
more
people.
pressure
Right.
and quite frankly, more risk.
Yeah.
So in acknowledging that there are these problems and that these smaller lakes shouldn't even be put at risk, they've created more risk for the larger lakes.
Yeah, for sure. Now, are they allowed on Lake Champlain?
Yeah,
Yes,
sure.
because I was in a discussion the other day. I mean, the EPA keeps yelling at us to clean that lake up, and one of these days they're going to arrive in their trucks and take over and clean the lake, and we're going to have to pay with whatever they spend. And to put these boats in a lake that we're talking about milfoil and zebra mussels, I mean, what are they thinking?
And I think it's
We're going to
really,
put this up on the
I
screen.
think it's really important that the people in the state of Vermont understand what has happened with respect to our lakes and invasive species.
Right.
It's getting worse and worse and worse. And for us to be implementing a rule that is almost guaranteed to contribute to this problem, just makes no sense at all.
Well, you know what kills me, commerce and community development, they push externally the quiet lakes in Vermont, the solitude, it's a great place to come and relax, the colored leaves when you're canoeing away. Not anymore. I mean, do you know Eric Chittenden?
Yes,
yes.
sure.
He and I have become buds. We keep talking all the time about wakeboats because he has been fighting on the Waterbury Reservoir. And because of the way it's shaped, it's almost like a figure 8, and it's almost impossible. You can't go from one end to the other without breaking all of the distance rules because it's the way it's shaped, and
Well,
he's on a tear.
if you think about the culture in the Northeast Kingdom and the people who have come here, the artists, the writers, Wallace Stegner at Lake Caspian, John Gunther at Lake Caspian, Robert Frost at Lake Willoughby, we have a culture that's nurtured poetry,
Right.
music. I can just think of, so many writers and poets and musicians.
We have music right on the
Well,
lake and Lake
we have
Dunmore.
Caspian Lake music.
Yeah.
It's just a magnet
Yeah.
for artists, and it's been a wonderful part of our culture. Not just our culture, but our economy. We have I think, one of the finest theaters in New England,
You do.
in Greensboro,
Yep.
and people don't come to go surfing, you know.
No, they don't.
They
Listen,
come.
you don't think of Vermont and go, oh, surfing. That's not the first thing that comes to your mind.
They come to go fishing,
Right.
to go kayaking and canoeing, for a more reflective experience.
Right.
And so, in many ways, you know, we're supposed to be respecting traditional uses, and this isn't a traditional use. This is you know, part of the new high-tech generation.
So you're saying, if I understand it, that the rule has just sort of been pushed aside, and we're sort of in a holding pattern right now?
Well, the rule that was adopted
Right.
has been sort of pushed aside.
Okay.
And we're in this holding pattern where they've got this sort of interim set of, I don't know what you call it, they're not
Yeah.
exactly rules, but guidelines or something that I think are even riskier than the rule itself, which was risky to begin with. And now they want to go back to the drawing board and reconsider it. I'm grateful, they should reconsider it. But in the meantime, this summer, there are lakes that are genuinely at risk.
And have there been any reported accidents or alarms from different people that?
I don't know that
things have
any
gone
study of
wrong?
safety has been done, at least by our agency.
I don't know.
Do you know, Rich, if they've done any safety studies?
To my knowledge, no.
No.
You know, they probably have anecdotal. Well, talk to Game Warden X. Has he or she heard any complaints? But certainly nothing scientific that they've done.
Yeah. Well, if they do put a rule back in, they should at least document what problems there's been. But when I saw that video about what it does to the shoreline, that really eats at people's property, and it's not the most attractive thing when these boats. And you mentioned Memphremagog, I can't even say it. I had the former mayor of the town, Newport, and the Canadians are not so happy. If anybody checked with, they're not happy at all about wakeboats coming over to visit.
Yeah, well,
And,
I don't know if we've done that. I think, you know, we haven't done a lot to promote U.S.-Canadian relations in
This will
recent
help
times.
a lot.
But
You know what's again, for a relative handful of users, of owners of very, very expensive watercraft,
Right.
to expose all of the Vermonters, other users, and these pristine lakes that people have been just spending an immense amount of time and energy to protect, to just for A&R to allow them at all on those lakes, especially the ones that meet certain quality for lack of invasive species and water clarity and other standards, it just doesn't make sense.
No.
It really doesn't. And David's exhibit, if you will, that chart that he has, it echoes what Lieutenant Governor Rogers said at the last round of public hearings. He said point blank, in his view, A&R has done a very poor job at protecting Vermont's lakes and ponds from invasive aquatic species. And the proof is in the pudding when you look at the facts. And so knowing that you can't get the ballast totally clean, that we don't have any state decontamination facilities, and if we had them, we couldn't afford to have them open and running in a way that's going to ensure that wakeboats could be adequately cleaned. Why allow them,
Right.
especially in those lakes that that have been vigilant in preventing transmission of aquatic invasive species? It really just doesn't make any logical sense.
Right. I'm wondering for them to be at this point A&R, because they are supposed to be the keepers of the land and the water, and really come down on us if you're constructing something and something's getting in the way of water flow or whatever. They just go crazy. And so something must be happening that they want to revisit this. And maybe people are probably really complaining in droves.
well, and I suppose in some ways it might be good that they're going to revisit this, but if it's so clear that we have a problem, that part of what they've done is said, you know what, we better take this right off the table for 12 more lakes.
Right.
I think they should have had, perhaps a period of time where it was taken off the table for every
Just
lake.
just to check it out, see what it is. Well, really, I keep thinking, and I thought about it when I did one of the shows, about the enforcement. And I keep thinking, what's the answer? Unless you put spikes or something in the water to show where the 200 feet and 20-foot depth, there's just no way, because usually a police officer, when he stops you, he's got some piece of paper that says, yep, you were doing 20 miles over. There's nothing here.
Right, and
I mean,
and
so
we
they're just
don't
gonna
have enough.
laugh in your face.
We don't have enough state policemen to monitor that.
Right.
I've talked to one of the heads of the Marine Patrol for the state police, and they don't patrol any of these lakes that have petitioned to prohibit these, and nor do they have the manpower to possibly do it. So,
Right.
and if they were called, it would be hours, if not days, before they could get to it. It's no slur on them. It's just they're so short staffed and they're so resource deprived to think that enforcement is going to protect the lakes from these wake boats. It's just a non-starter. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, because I know over the years, I used to work with the state police, and they beefed up the regular patrol, not the water patrol. They just never did. And so I'm sure if this is a big issue, they're going to have to staff up, which means the legislature has to give them more money, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't know. But they can't prove it.
They can't even hire enough people for regular law enforcement duties, much less pay them. So law enforcement aspect is a non-starter. It's just no solution to this problem.
But those issues are the issues that do the damage, I think. It's the getting close to the shore, people in boats that get knocked over. I remember being on a few speedboats down in Florida and wanting to be by the, because it was fun, but not when you're in a canoe or a kayak or something.
I go canoeing and kayaking once in a while, and I've never been too bothered by some of the motorboats, most of the motorboats on Caspian.
I think everybody's pretty respectful.
Yeah, I think that's the case. Lakes are different too. They all have different sorts of characteristics and different communities around them.
Right.
I grew up in Rutland, and we would spend time at Bombazine and Dunmore, and once in a while we would come up to Joe's Pond, and it always seemed like Joe's Pond was more of a party lake. Bombazine was kind of a motorboat lake, get out, and we all knew years ago that Bombazine had invasives problems.
Well, didn't they have to dredge Bombazine because of the milfoil a whole lot of years ago? But that was pretty bad.
I don't remember about Dunmore. We used to go swimming at Dunmore a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't remember invasives being a problem there.
Yeah,
but
I don't think so. I had friends that lived up there, and I would come up from New York and spend weeks up, and that was my first introduction to Vermont, was Lake Dunmore. That's a beautiful lake, and they've got the music camp right on the shoreline.
We had a lot of fun at Lake Dunmore. Yeah. They had a dance hall every Saturday night. There was a dance
I missed
in the
that.
summer.
Bummer.
Waterworks, it was called.
Yeah. Did you go there?
I grew up in Rutland as well, David.
Well, my brother's band used to play there Saturday night.
Cool.
My brother was a big rock star when we were teenagers.
That's great. And Dad, was he in the band?
Oh my! We don't want to go there. We don't want to go there.
Yeah, we don't. This is a video that we're talking wakeboats. So we'll do an hour on your father. That'd be cool. Anyway, you gave me a note which bothered me. Some of you said poor draftsmanship of the rule.
Well, I think
worried about how it's written and.
Yeah, I think that the way the rule itself is written is, and it's section 3.8C in particular. It's written such that it isn't even clear on a lake where the boat is supposed to be, have its home, that it needs to have proof of decontamination. There's no requirement that if this is the place where your boat lives and is going to be for the summer, taking it into the lake, there's nothing that I can see that says you have to prove to those people at Lake Seymour or Lake Willoughby or wherever else that that your boat has been decontaminated.
Right. Well, and if Ritchie said that the state police don't even tour around those lakes or anything, so there's nobody there to check, right? And then I don't think they'd want that job anyway.
They're supposed to get a decal
Yeah,
for where their boat is going to be moored or
Right.
anchored, and maybe this is something that they're going to clarify. But summer's here, and I don't know what kind of a problem it is, but the way the thing was written, it's not what I would call happily drafted.
Wonderful. Well, maybe this event, the next two public hearings will sort all that out. And you really should check out the dates at the end of the video and get on Zoom and listen. And there are instructions on how to submit comments if you want to.
Great.
Because that would be very important, not just watching, but weighing in. I think I might put one of the videos that I have at the end of this as well. It is just ridiculous.
Well,
I don't even know much about this, but you take one look at that video and you go, I don't think so.
Well, I am grateful that they are going to consider giving greater weight and thought to delegating authority to municipalities.
Yeah, that makes sense. Local control.
And the notion
thing.
that everybody in state government knows everything and is the best to regulate
Right.
it's just wrong.
Yep.
And we really care in Greensboro about our lake. And
Well, it's part of the charm of that whole setting. You have such a
we
beautiful little town.
kept jet skis off
Yeah.
Lake Caspian. No jet skis on Lake Caspian.
Oh, really?
Absolutely not.
But
And
we allow wakeboats. Are they
well,
noisy?
nobody's tried to put one on that I know of
Those
yet.
little tickets.
So
Are they? I have never heard one. Are they noisy? I mean, you got to know this is a pretty big boat and a lot of power. Richie, do they lots of noise? You can hear them coming.
Yeah.
or-
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's just by the nature of the motor and the fact that it's with the water-filled bladder to create the giant waves. But noise is a factor, but not by far the most important focus of the
No,
town
for sure.
on why these are just inappropriate on Caspian Lake.
Right. I heard somebody called me in a big panic maybe a month ago, said that they know that there's a bigger and better wakeboat coming out.
a bigger and better.
Bigger and better. And he was going to send me all this information, but he didn't, and I'll have to remind him. But they're supposed to be bigger and better than what we even have now. Maybe somebody's looking this as a new industry for get taxes or something. There's got to be. It's all about the money, David. Everything is about money.
Let's go surfing in Vermont.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, they talk about wake sports. Other than surfing, is there anything else one does with a wake boat? I mean, you can go tubing. What else?
I suppose you could. Boy, I'll tell you, I would think it'd be really risky tubing behind one of these things.
Yeah,
I mean,
don't open
the
your
thing
mouth,
flips
right?
over and you get dragged through
Yeah,
the water.
Right, exactly.
I-
But they keep talking about how fun wake sports are, but there's not much you can do with a wake boat, is there?
Well, it's not anything I've ever been into. I mean,
Yeah.
basically, I'm into fishing.
Yeah, right.
And that's
I'm into canoeing. That's what I like. Quiet. Don't bother me. I would think it's not good for fishing either if you've got that thing churning up the waters. They
No.
like quiet and calm too.
Well,
think?
we haven't spoken to the fish, but I
Oh,
don't
well,
think
I
that.
bet it's going to be a problem.
My father used to think I spoke to fish, but
The fish whisperer. There you go. Did Dad fish?
oh yeah, oh yeah. He said I fished so much I knew most trout by their first names.
Good for Dad. Anyway, so what other issues are there that we should chat about here? Because I just, I'm just so, I don't get it. I really don't. I don't know where A&R is thinking. Because a lot of the people I know there are passionate about the environment and passionate about everything. I mean, just keeping Vermont pristine. And
Well, I think the real big issues are the fact that these are guaranteed to spread invasives, especially with the way we've designed the system right now, that there is no way to enforce all of these 500-foot, 20-foot, 200-foot, 300-foot rules. And that creates a safety problem, especially with young children on things like paddle boards. And then I think the way I don't know who wrote the rules that I looked at,
Right.
but
Fix them.
But somebody's got to write these things more carefully.
Yeah. Well, I know A&R's got a few attorneys on their things, so they should
I think
put
they
them-
do,
put
and I
them.
think,
know-
and
I know
I'm
a
sure
few
they're
of them.
good attorneys. My experience with the AG's office and the agency's attorneys is they're among the best.
Yeah,
So
very, very
I
good.
doubt that their attorneys wrote this.
This, somebody's pushing this. We're gonna have to investigate, because this just doesn't make sense at all. And what is the, you just said it was 20 feet deep, and from the shore, how much is that?
500, I think it's 500 feet.
500 feet, that changed a couple of times.
No, I don't think it is under the current reg, but that's what was thought. I think it's 200, but
Ooh.
regardless, the problem is if they're in the middle of the lake, even on a lake like Caspian, that basically means it's a no recreation zone for fisher people,
Right.
paddleboard, canoeing, kayaking, because they're at risk from the waves. It's just, so again, local control on this issue to me is a win-win for A&R. They can say, well, we're not going to ban them from the state, but we're also going to recognize that local communities with the proper showing can regulate uses on the lake in a positive way, in a protective way, not to open it up to other more dangerous or problematic things. But if they want to take a step such as banning wakeboats from a lake like Caspian, then the town of Greensboro, through its elected representatives, should be granted that limited specific power. And that's what we're seeking in the second petition that's pending before A&R right now, the delegation petition.
And I think we need to keep in mind that there's a lake like Caspian, and on the other hand, a lake like Seymour. Seymour is probably 3 times bigger than Caspian. And so if it's a 500-foot safety distance that's created by this rule, that means it's 1,000 feet each, because you've got 500 feet on each side,
Right.
and you've got 1,000 feet going in every direction. And in a smaller lake, that's significant.
lake.
That's really significant.
Right.
And and it makes a bigger impact on Caspian than it does on one of the bigger lakes.
How are you getting the word out, you and others? Like I worked with the Responsible Wakes for Vermont Lakes group.
Right.
They are very active.
They
I know
are.
quite a few of the members. They were all here in studio one time while 2 of their members were speaking. But how do you get the word out? Because I'm sure everybody that's in a canoe or swimming or just loving our lakes would want to weigh in.
Well, we have a listserv in Greensboro,
You get it
and just about everybody who votes is on the list,
Oh,
and
good.
and a lot of the summer people as well. So I think, as much as I have problems with modern technology, I think email and
gets out.
social media is a pretty effective way of keeping people
Yeah,
posted.
it may be a very interesting hearing.
Yeah.
And they're doing them 2 nights, which will be good. Because if you don't make one, you have to make the other and
Yeah.
weigh in, just hoping that they're listening.
The problem is it's overwhelming. The sentiment among those who are aware of the issue and are motivated enough to devote some time to attending either in person or by technology, it's been overwhelming. If you look at that and the written comments, if it were based upon genuine, concerned, informed opinion, then we wouldn't even be having this conversation because those lakes, certainly those 10 lakes that have petitioned to ban them from their
Right.
waters would have been granted because it's a handful of individuals, frankly, that offered a contrary view. And I understand where they're coming from. Some are wake boat owners and they like that activity. But for the greater good, there's certain bodies of water that they don't belong on. And Caspian Lake, in my view, is one of those. And not just my view, in the view, I think we had 1,200 or 1,500 people signed a petition in support of the town and the Greensboro Association's application for petition and for the town's petition. So, you know, give the local control to do what's right on a protective basis, not to open up beyond what A&R has already allowed, but to restrict in certain specific instances activities that are incompatible with historical uses, current uses, and future uses and protection of the lake. It's really a no-brainer in a way for A&R if it can get beyond that. It knows best, and it's not going to let the most committed, and most involved, and most affected people have the necessary input on the issue of this importance.
Richard, what do you hear in getting back to when you're stating your issues with this, the problems? What are the people that support wake boats, what do they offer as a reason why this should be allowed? Just because it's there?
Yeah, just because everybody who wants to do whatever they want on any given lake should be able to do it. That's essentially the approach to it. And I'm not minimizing. Everybody has an interest in using Vermont's vital resources,
Right.
but especially in this day and age, there's certain very special places that you got to be vigilant to keep special and to keep in this day and age when everything is changing rapidly, and as that chart shows, invasive aquatic species are increasing exponentially. Those lakes that have and it's people that are committed to them, that have preserved them and protected them, listen to the state should listen to them.
Right.
And give them the authority to take these minimal but necessary measures to protect those bodies of water.
I think that's almost a necessity to have local control, local people involved in this. It's their lake, in
Well,
quotes.
in fairness, it's everyone's lake. It's everybody's lake.
Right.
But those towns that entire existence is dependent on that lake, both in the past, present, and the future,
Right.
should be given this limited authority to be extra vigilant on certain risks. And one of those risks is wake boats.
There you go. Well, I'd love to see bigger, better. We'll see what that looks like. Can you imagine? Is there any perfect lake for this? I mean, is there, I'm assuming Lake from Magog, if the Canadians don't go nutty, that's a big enough lake that wouldn't be too much of a problem.
Yeah, and I think Champlain.
Champlain, right.
Yeah.
So that's two, but
those
the
two
others are
lakes.
just too small and too beautiful and.
You know, I'm grateful that the agency had enough insight to say, okay, well, we've heard you, and there are 12 lakes that we've decided they're small enough, we're going to just drop
Right.
them from the list.
Right.
But I don't know where they drew the line on 300 acres or 400 acres or 352 acres. I just, there are some that it makes sense. It doesn't make sense on Caspian.
Do other states must allow wake boats?
It's a controversy nationwide, and other states are dealing with the same problem.
Has anybody researched what other states are doing have you, Ritchie? Have you done any research?
There's different efforts in different states, in different locales. It's difficult because you have a lobbying effort by powerboat associations and users of those boats, owners of those boats. And there is a belief that people should be able to do whatever they want on every body of water. So you got to get beyond that and realize that you have to make some sacrifices in this day and age to preserve and protect certain bodies of water. And and where do you draw the line? I don't think it's that difficult. You do have lakes like Champlain, Memphremagog, Bombazine, because they're fairly entrenched there, and they already have. They're not a pristine lake any longer. I grew up
Right.
fishing on that lake, and it's not it's still a beautiful lake, but it's not the same water quality as
Right.
it was when I was a kid. And part of the reason is because of the motorboat traffic and transmission of aquatic invasive species. So ANR has to get the spine to say these special places that we have, we need to take special protection of, and it's not a hard lift to prohibit wake boats from them. It's not some overriding public necessity or even public demand
Right.
for them on these lakes that have filed the petitions, including the town of Greensboro.
Well, if a lake disallows, what did you say? Disallowed
Jet ski.
jet skis.
Right. Well,
These
I
things are a
I
little
don't think,
bigger.
I don't think Vermont's environmental standards have ever been measured against Illinois
Right.
or even our neighbor New York. Not to be dissing Illinois or New
Right.
York, but I think we've set our own standards.
Right.
You know, we've.
Thank you for that.
I think we've been unique.
Yeah.
I think tourism has been an essential part of our economy, and the fact is, we've had an agrarian economy that was much closer to the land and the water than other places that are more industrialized. And I think that's one reason we're here and why so many people are engaged in this discussion. And I'm surprised. I would expect that the agency would be at the front of the parade leading this.
Me too.
And I'm surprised that it's been so difficult to drag them to what I think at least is a reasonably sensible way to preserve this incredibly precious asset.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm right with you on that. I'm very surprised as well. And when I had talked to the guy from A&R who was leading the first
Oliver Pearson.
Yeah.
Very
I took-
good
I-
young man
yes.
from Yale University.
Yep.
The kind of person you want working in the agency.
Yeah.
And then they moved him away. I don't understand that at all.
Well, maybe, who knows? We don't want to read into that, but they thought maybe he was a little.
I don't know,
Disturbed as
but
well.
he was extremely bright.
I enjoyed talking to him, and he
As
was
did
helping
I.
me understand it so I could do a show.
Yeah.
So, good guy. But anyway.
I hope he's still at the agency. I don't know what he's
I
doing.
don't know, we can do a little search. I know people. But,
I think he is. I
he?
don't know his position, and I have no suggestion or information that it was related to his what he did or didn't do on wake boats. But he worked hard. He was
he was.
good
And he
person.
did a great job facilitating which is very hard if you've got standing room only and 300 people on Zoom. It's not an easy thing to
No,
do.
good gosh.
Could get carried away. But I would encourage all of you that are listening to please check out the dates of these the Zoom meeting and participate, because this is a big deal, I think.
And you want to be sure to use.
Yes, we're going to put that up while we're talking. We'll put it up so people. Is there anything else you wanted to highlight on that? So people will. It's pretty clear, the map, easy to read, I think.
No, I just want people to see
Yep.
how the spread of invasives has become so threatening, and that it's something that we need to be aware of.
Yeah. Well, I know in motor vehicles, every time we put out a registration for, there was information about zebra mussels and just don't, be careful, and not paying attention. Well, it's really bad. So we have about 5 minutes or so, because I want to save a little time at the end to show the video. Is there anything else that we should encourage people to do? And That's something that they will bring with there and say, oh, I've got to participate in this.
I think contacting their state representatives and
Good.
senators and educating them
Good.
that this may require a legislative solution if
Oh,
A&R doesn't do the right thing.
Yeah.
that's interesting.
I-
I
I-
never
I-
thought of that. Shame on me.
No, well, I agree. I think that's essential. In fact, if we don't see real progress, I think people need to get together and hire some lobbyists and make this a big issue.
Right.
And I've talked to legislators. I think we have a lot of support
Locally.
across party lines.
Yep. Oh, that's great. Well, I can certainly send this video out and let people hear and see.
You know, Lieutenant Governor Rogers is one of my neighbors, and we don't agree on every issue. John and I have disagreed
Right.
on
Me
more
too.
than a few, but on this issue, we're 100% in
Yeah.
line.
Yeah, he has been
and
very vocal about it.
He's provided some real leadership, and I'm grateful for that.
That's great. Yeah, I have not, in all this conversation, nobody really talks about the legislators, and they should be at least informed, if not involved in the House or Senate floor, but this could be something that they should get involved in.
Well, I think they will.
Yeah. Especially every time I think about Lake Champlain, and we're still having trouble with the cleanness of the water, and EPA still yelling. Sometime it's going to happen. They're going to come in and set up right on the lake shores, and
I don't think it's going to happen in this administration,
we'll see.
but it may happen.
Well, they've been after us for a long time.
Yeah,
I don't
no.
know why we haven't done what they want us to do.
Yeah, well,
But that could be another show. you
it
know?
could be.
Yeah, because Lake Champlain, all of our lakes are part of our economy. There must be a number that says how much, but it must be a pretty big, solid number of what our lakes draw tourists in, and how much it adds to, especially Lake Champlain, for heaven's sake.
Yeah,
That's a real treasure, and we should take care of it.
well,
So,
and for us in Greensboro, Caspian is the heart and soul.
sure, that's
And
great.
it's a wonderful lake, and it has a wonderful community, and it enriches Vermont with the people it brings. I just, it's just thrilling to have these writers and these musicians and, William Rehnquist, the Supreme Court Chief Justice, used to live there. Greta
Oh.
Garbo used to come there. Mick Jagger
Oh,
used to come
please.
there. I mean, really and truly,
That's great.
it's a wonderful place, and they don't come here to go surfing.
No, you don't think so? No,
No,
getting on their wake
No,
boats?
no.
Mess up their hair. That'd be bad.
And I'd like to do acknowledge the Greensboro Association. These folks put their money where their mouths are
Good for
and their
them.
time and effort to keeping the shoreline within the Shoreline Protection Act, to try to improve water quality over its already high standard, to keep out, to have a greeter program. So they just do so much.
Oh, we lost him.
Well, we were at the end here.
Yep, we could keep talking, and I'll edit this out, but what Ritchie was saying, that Greensboro and a lot of other, they're sort of hidden, they're just all by themselves, and then obviously you mentioned about the Highland Center for the Arts. I mean, there's just such richness there. And-
It's just between the
Right.
lake and the Highland Center and the food we produce with Jasper Hill Cheese and Hill
wow.
Farmstead Brewery and some of the other smaller Rowan cheese and dairy. It's remarkable.
it's great.
It's remarkable.
It's a hidden treasure, as they say. And I know when you were mentioning about cheese, and we make such a big deal about cow runoff and all of this runoff from the farms, right? But yet they let these wake boats in when they know that it's gonna carry in milfoil and zebra mussels. I mean, where are
No,
they
we've been
thinking?
really tough on our farmers.
Yeah, I mean,
And,
we don't give them a break,
Well,
and yet we allow these things.
and I think I understand some of the standards for farm runoff. We want to protect the water.
Right.
And I think the farms that I'm familiar with, Jasper Hill, I can't imagine any dairy or agricultural business adhering to a higher standard than them.
Right.
I mean, their standards are impeccable.
Absolutely.
And
that's most farmers, I would say. They understand the value of pristine land.
Well, we have an emerging agricultural economy that is exciting. And part of it is being driven in the Northeast Kingdom by the Center for an Agricultural Economy. And I think to see what's evolving in the way of new value-added products and smaller farm land-based businesses is really it creates a lot of optimism on my part for our economic future.
Absolutely, I think so. Because people, even young people now seem to be, they get into farming, not necessarily cows and the standard, but
even vegetable farming.
Right,
In
right,
Greensboro,
flowers,
we have
vegetables.
bread and seed farms, and it's remarkable what they're doing.
Yeah,
I don't, I'm not into gardening myself. I pulled too many weeds when I was a kid.
right.
But, I'm amazed at what they do and what they produce.
That's great. Well, listen, I thank you very much. I'm sorry we lost Ritchie. He did a great job. He works I read a lot about him. What a magnificent background.
Yeah, he's a
And you, Mr. Kelley?
he's a good lawyer.
Yeah, he is. Thank you, David, very much for
Well, it's
coming
always
on
a
the
pleasure to
show.
talk to you,
This is good.
Pat.
Thank you. And thank you for tuning in. This is Pat McDonald, your host for Vote for Vermont, where our tagline is listening beyond the sound bites. See you next week.
Things have changed since then. In particular, wakeboats began to appear on the river about 15 years ago. The ones currently used on the Willamette can range up to 25 feet long, weigh over 12,000 pounds when fully loaded, and have motors that put out over 400 horsepower. These boats plow the river into massive artificial waves and are used for wake surfing, wakeboarding, and tubing. Across the country, complaints have arisen about the damage these boats cause to the environment and property, as well as spoiling the enjoyment of water bodies by other users. The Willamette River has been hit especially hard because of its relatively narrow width and limited ability to dissipate boat wakes.